Part 137. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1364. On this day, the Dogula God line received a declaration of war from their surroundings. Wuss. What? These 6 guys actually got together and declared war on our pantheon of gods. Is there anything wrong with their minds? One of the 2 most powerful figures in the Dogula system, a creature with ram's horns, looked at the declaration of war and said with some surprise, "I don't think we should take it lightly. These 6 guys have always been suppressed by us. If we hadn't seen that there was a stellar alliance behind them, we would have destroyed them long ago. Yes, there is certainly no reason for the sudden change of these 6 guys. I heard that the newcomer who occupied the marginal territory of our god system recently seems to have disappeared. I am afraid that he is the trouble behind it. Yes, it seems to me. After all, those 6 guys have been dealing with us for so long. How can they not know how much they weigh? How could they have the courage to declare war on us? I think it's the newcomer. The person is operating behind the scenes. Lord Jiayan, are you going to start a war with us?" The flower goddess is standing behind a group of gods. As one of the gods who was urgently called for a meeting, her status has now drastically declined. Even though her status was not high before, her strength is tentatively dropped below the god level. Her status was even lower. If she hadn't been blatantly prevented from attending the meeting, she might not have had a seat in this meeting. Others don't know Jia Yan's personality, but after half a year of contact, she has learned a lot about this outsider who has just arrived on this planet. After all, even a strong person will reveal his true nature in the past 6 months, and she has noticed it. This must be that guy. Has he recovered his strength? No, it should be stronger than when I first saw him. The flower god gave a wry smile. In fact, when she looked back and thought about it carefully, she realized that she didn't know Jia Yan clearly that she thought she knew clearly. The most typical example is Jia Yan's strength. Even if she thought she vaguely knew how strong Jia Yan was, but looking back, Jia Yang still had huge hidden dangers when she fought with their 3 gods. Under such circumstances, she still fought vigorously with their 3 gods, and even beat her temporarily. Lost the power of the gods. If his strength is actually far greater than what I saw at the beginning, then what kind of strength will he have now? Laurency, I want to ask you, how likely do you think this newcomer is to cause trouble behind his back? Suddenly, the distracted flower goddess heard his name being called. She was stunned for a moment, and then came back to her senses. Seeing all her fellow gods looking at her in confusion, she shook her head helplessly. I don't know if the newcomers will be behind those 6 stars, but in my opinion, this is very likely. She is not afraid to say similar remarks. After all, those 6 stellar powerhouses will not suddenly start a war with them. After all, both sides have been at peace with each other for decades, so she said that Jia Yan is backing her. The guess is extremely natural. Of course, she was not going to tell any more information about Jia Yan, because it might involve more information about her past contact with Jia Yan. Jia Yan, you want to attack my divine system, what should I do? Flora was confused for a while, and she didn't know what she should do. She was grateful that Jia Yan spared her life, but she also had good friends in this pantheon, especially several female gods, with whom she had a very good relationship. Forget it, let's find a way to contact Jia Yan once we get back and ask him clearly. The goddess of flowers had just made a plan, but unfortunately Jia Yan didn't give her and her deity any time to prepare. The declaration of war has just been issued. In the territory of the 6 stellar powerhouses over there, the army has been organized. Large swaths of armies are marching towards the territory of the gods of the Dogula system. The War of the Gods is about to begin. Every participant in the 6-star level territories was looking at the sky, especially the creatures in the Kalhur territory, who were extremely proud. Because their lord Tian Nialang is the person in charge of this war between the gods. Of course, ordinary creatures would not know that the new god is the real leader of these 7-star level powerhouses. Several powerful stars in the sky looked at the movement below indifferently. Sir, the rules on our planet are that mortal creatures must also participate in the war. After all, sometimes, the victory of the strong does not mean real victory. And even if ordinary creatures have little impact on our strength, some of their secret weapons are extremely powerful. It is powerful, and it will have a certain impact on us in a stellar battle, and it will also cause us to lose the opportunity. So we must let the mortals fight first. Listening to the seeing on the side explaining to himself, Jia Yan nodded non-committally. Anyway, similar things are not unique to this planet. Just like other galactic wars, ordinary creatures are also allowed to die first, or to test the enemy's backhand, etc. This can be regarded as allowing the strong to test the enemy's method. However, the stellar powerhouses in the 6 major territories smiled bitterly when they looked at the warriors from their own territories. They did not rely on violence to run their territories. Now they saw creatures that were familiar to them. They turned into soldiers participating in the war, all smiling bitterly. If there is no accident, after this war, the people in their territory will be weakened a lot. Of course, if they win, they can rob the population resources from the territory of the 30 gods, but what if they lose? This thought flashed through every star level, but all of them unanimously did not mention it. The fighting has begun ahead. Let's go over and take a look. Jia Yan looked at the army below. The innate troops were hundreds of miles away and were fighting with the border guards of the Dogula god system. So he quickly flew a distance and came to the sky, looking at the war below. On the earth, creatures that have only reached the earth level, although they are only ordinary creature levels, are just powerful creatures, fighting crazily. Some of them use advanced technological firearms, while others don't even use firearms or thermal weapons. Instead, they just fight with their main bodies paired with giant swords or other weapons. As soon as the war began, the two sides were inseparable. After all, both sides were very familiar old rivals, and the strength of the two sides was already close. Otherwise, they would not have faced each other for so long without a war. In just a short time, more than 2,000 creatures were killed and injured on both sides. It seems that there will be many dead souls in this war. Jia Yan looked at the war below without any unbearable feeling. Just like what he had thought before, he was not a living being on this planet at all, and even most of the creatures fighting below were not creatures in human form. To Jia Yan, it was just like the people on Earth seeing ants or something like that. I would like to ask, would any people on Earth find it intolerable to see ants fighting? Even if there is, it is from God's perspective. I don't have much experience in this kind of war. You can take charge. Jia Yan said lightly. When they arrived at the initial front line of the war, Jia Yan saw that the army behind them had really arrived. The numerical advantage was too great. The number of people here was almost dozens of times that of the people on the opposite side. In a matter of seconds, the huge border defense army there was directly destroyed. Sir, there are a total of 3 million troops in our 6 major territories, and there are several demigod-level experts in them. I believe that even relying on them, we can destroy several gods without the gods taking action. Territory. A star-level expert calmly analyzed Jia Yan. Oh. If you can defeat several gods' territories without the intervention of the gods, it is considered powerful. Unfortunately, the gods you are talking about have already arrived. Jia Yan too, but he quickly turned his gaze in a certain direction. Huh? Master Jia Yan's perception is indeed better than mine. The stars around Jia Yan also turned to look at this moment. It turned out that not far in front of their group of stars, looking for the book garden, monsters that looked extremely holy were flying slowly from the horizon. There are a total of 15 creatures in this group, and each one has reached a level similar to that of a star. With their appearance, there was a burst of music from heaven and earth, and below the earth, ordinary troops were cheering, as if the appearance of this group of creatures could give them a great morale boost. Of course they can boost their momentum, because this group of creatures is the so-called god of faith of the defending coalition forces, and it is also the main target god of Jia Yan's attack this time. Sir, these are about half of the gods of the Dogula pantheon. I didn't expect that they actually came with 15 gods at once. We have to be careful. The 6 of us join forces and can barely resist the attacks of the 10 gods. Sir. It doesn't matter. Jia Yan shook his head lightly. After saying that, he actually didn't say hello to a group of stars, and just flew towards the place where the 15 gods were, all alone. What? This newcomer dares to come here alone. Asshole, you must be looking down on us. On the other side of the divine system, the 15 gods seem to have been stimulated by something. You must know that in such a war, even a powerful star level would not dare to be so unprepared and come to their 15. In front of the great gods. But by chance, the newcomer actually flew over like this. I simply don't know how to write the word death. Don't worry, everyone, talk to him first and see what his purpose is. If he dares to come alone, he must have someone to rely on. Don't underestimate him. That's right. This guy was able to escape calmly last time when he was attacked by the 3 major gods of our system. No, he also destroyed the flower god's divine body. It will definitely not be that simple. Let's ask him about his purpose first. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1365. Jia Yan calmly approached the coalition army where half of the gods of the so-called Dogula system were located. The terrifying and powerful pressure emanating from more than a dozen gods instantly enveloped him. Although the powerful ones in the divine system are generally weaker than those at the stellar level, the pressure unleashed by a dozen of them together is still extremely terrifying. Jia Yan froze and felt that his whole body was sinking into the water and he could not move. However, he did not hold on, but after being solidified by the pressure of a group of gods, his body disappeared directly. Is this the move you were talking about? It's actually more terrifying than what his clone used. We can't catch him leaving. He is hiding in the subspace, but our kingdom of God can affect him and release the kingdom of God. One by one, the gods are preparing to release the kingdom of God, so that Jia Yan, who dares to come alone, will suffer a big loss. Everyone, I am not here to start a war directly. If you really want to fight, I will take it seriously. Jia Yan's voice suddenly sounded behind this group of divine creatures. What? He actually ran behind him. My kingdom of God is locked, and he is clearly still in front of me. Why is this happening? We can't even locate his location. Every divine creature was extremely shocked by the image of a giant mosquito that suddenly appeared behind them. Of course they didn't know that the reason why they couldn't catch Jia Yan in the subspace was because a fellow god in their pantheon betrayed him. During the 6 months that Jia Yan spent with the flower god, of course it was not as simple as just asking for knowledge. In the end, asking for this knowledge was to defeat the god. And the method used now is one of the gains in half a year. Huh, sure enough, these guys can't lock me in the subspace now. Then there is indeed nothing wrong with the information the flower god gave me. Jia Yan saw those gods looking at Jia Yan in horror, as if he was extremely surprised because he was able to escape the lock of their divine kingdom and come from the subspace behind him. Because of this transfer, Jia Yan himself understood that the flower god had not deceived him on at least this point for half a year. The divine beings can use the kingdom of God to lock me in the subspace. The locking method used is different from that of the star-level powerhouses. The star-level powerhouses lock me through brainwave power, while the godly creatures generally use their divine power to lock me. A country is something similar to a domain. Jia Yan smiled lightly as he looked at the group of Dogula gods in front of him who were too afraid to take action when they saw his sudden appearance. It became clear in his heart that now he was no longer so lacking and pale in the methods of gods. When Jia Yan fought against the three gods of the Dogula gods before, although he had taken advantage, during the battle, he found that not only was his subspace talent limited, but he was also unable to detect the rapid transfer of gods. So in half a year, he solved these problems one by one from the flower god. Now after some experiments, he really achieved the effect that shocked all the gods. Actually, it is very simple for the kingdom of God to fight against this god. That is, when I am in the subspace, if I leave a little bit of brainwave power fluctuations, and my body instantly restrains my aura, they will think that those brainwave powers are my true self. Body without noticing me coming to their side. Even if Jia Yan's aura cannot restrain himself very well now, he can still restrain himself in an instant, so at this moment, he used his subspace talent, which shocked and frightened all the gods. This, if he didn't appear behind us, but came directly to attack, maybe someone would have been injured or even died just now. Don't be afraid, even if he dares to come, with so many of us, it is absolutely impossible for him to escape unscathed. Although this is a good statement, his transferability is too weird. Each of the gods felt the pressure instantly. In the battle between strong men, the enemy actually has such a strange transferability. For any strong man, it is an invisible pressure. After all, the enemy cannot be seen. When they appear, as long as the attack power is not ridiculously bad, it must have caused them harm instantly. Even if other gods would tear that guy to pieces after being hurt, no one would be willing to be the unlucky one. Of course, what they didn't know was that they thought that as long as Jia Yan came close to kill one of them, he would be torn apart by other strong men in an instant. This was simply not true. Okay, everyone knows that I am not someone you can kill at will. Let's talk now. Jia Yan said this calmly. This newcomer, we recognize your strength, but what are you doing now? Are you attacking our pantheon? A god stood up calmly, as if he was the leader of this group of gods. Is it close to the primary level of a high-level star? Jia Yan saw the opponent's strength. Even if this god had no other partners, Jia Yan would probably have to spend some means to kill him. Of course, this is not the reason why Jia Yan is afraid of them. Ha, is this the living dragon god of the Dogula god? You said that I want to go to war with you. If you really want to understand it this way, you are not wrong. What? You really want to start a war? Who do you think you are? There are 30 major system spirits in our divine system, and you are only 6-star level ones. You really think you can't compete with us? Each of the gods seemed to be crazy and furious. Of course, gods are just like stellar powerhouses, no one is a fool, and the possibility of the current gesture being intentional is extremely high, so Jia Yan did not react much to their anger. But after waiting for a while, he said calmly, everyone, I don't want to start a war, but your gods have a lot of things I need, and I don't think you are willing to hand them over obediently, so I have to do this. Of course, if you are willing to hand it over to me, I will not be able to give up the idea of starting a war. Sir, what do you want? When Jia Yan said the requested words, the gods knew that they were coming. It is impossible for Jia Yan to attack a huge divine system for no reason. After all, the essence of strong men is the same. No one would do such a thankless thing without benefit. After hearing that the other party asked him to say what he wanted, Jia Yan said it seemingly indifferently. It's very simple. It is the crystal of faith that has the most gods among you. If you are willing to hand over all the crystals of faith in your hands to me, then it is not impossible for me to give up the idea of attacking you. Believe, the crystal of faith? And you want everything in our hands, you think so? The crystal of faith is the foundation of life for our gods. You actually want all of us. You might as well just ask us to die. Impossible. You, a newcomer, have such a big appetite. You will die miserably. When Jia Yan spoke out his words, the gods were really angry. They couldn't help but be angry with these gods. After all, the crystal of faith to them is like the food and water that people on earth eat and drink. It is no different from the lifeblood. If they hand it over, they will really lose the foundation of their lives. My lord, your name should be Jia Yan. Lord Jia Yan, don't you think what you said is a bit excessive? The god who spoke to Jia Yan had a cold attitude because what Jia Yan said made him feel insulted. After all, as gods, they are all superior on this planet, even in their spiritual domain. It was the first time I met other powerful people in the universe on this divine planet, and I did not suffer much loss. At this time, I heard this powerful creature made such an rude request to them. It seems that Jia Yan is not much stronger than them, but he is so domineering. This is an unacceptable request for the gods of the entire Dogula system. My name is Jia Yan. It seems that you are not willing to accept my proposal? Well, then, let's start this war based on ordinary creatures as the battle framework. When you are willing to compromise, we will talk again. Jia Yan shook his head lightly and then the body retreated into the subspace. Not long after, Jia Yan returned to the side of the 6-star level subordinates without noticing it, even if all the gods stared desperately. This newcomer's strength is too weird. Yes, this strength is almost incomprehensible to us, especially this way of movement. How should we deal with it? The gods originally came to put some pressure on Jia Yan's stellar coalition forces, but unexpectedly they backfired and became extremely fearful of Jia Yan's strength. Haha, sir, you see, each of these gods hesitated. You are too powerful, and there is no way they can stop you. Yes, your strength is far more than that. But I didn't know that you were so terrible at spreading rumors in the subspace. With your presence, our war will definitely be successful this time. Several star-level creatures felt extremely confident in Jia Yan's strength when they saw that Jia Yan casually went out to play with more than a dozen gods of the Dogula god system and returned intact. Before this, they were shocked by Jia Yan's grand ambition, but they couldn't believe that it could really succeed. After all, there are many gods and gods on this planet, and they wanted to rob them all. There is no reason to talk about idiots' dreams. But Jia Yan's action this time gave them a shot in the arm. With such mobility, others can only be beaten without being able to fight back. Coupled with the terrifying power Jia Yan used to suppress them previously, for them, they are already invincible on this planet. Could it be that Lord Jia Yan can really do something that no one has ever done before? Please support the new book Wilderness Escape Female Anchor. You can find it by searching on Kidian. 8. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1366. Jia Yan, who was trusted by his subordinates, finally gained more sincerity. Otherwise, everyone would use threats to achieve control purposes, and they might rebel at any time. U. And Jia Yan's display of strength this time is not just for his subordinates to return home. There are many benefits to doing so. For example, another huge benefit is that the Dogula divine system they face feels difficult. Has Jia Yan's strength actually reached this level? It's hard to handle. We can't limit his speed. Even if we fight with the number of people not separated, one person will definitely be attacked by him first, and then others can attack Jia Yan, and they may not necessarily kill him altogether. It is said that those who fought him for the first time have not seen this way of movement. Could it be that in just over half a year, he actually took advantage of the weakness of our God's kingdom to create this kind of weapon to deal with us? It's unreasonable if you don't have good fighting skills. In the main hall of Dogula God system, two gods who have reached the primary level of high-level stars sit at the top. Below them are powerful creatures who have reached the level of gods. Jia Yan's confrontation with a group of Dogula gods at the border made the gods of the Dogula gods feel fearful and dangerous about Jia Yan's strength. Mainly because of speed, plus relying on the three great gods to fight Jia Yan last time, and then judging his strength level, it is even more terrifying. It is impossible for all of us in the Pantheon to fight him now. After all, the western and southern regions also need to be protected. The other pantheons and alliances of stellar powerhouses are eyeing us. But these 7-star level outsiders have invaded our territory. Are we going to let them continue to wreak havoc like this? For the powerful gods, their strength is actually linked to the population and strength of the people they control. For example, the territory of the gods that Jia Yan and others have invaded is controlled by a creature who has just reached the realm of gods. He was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot because no one else was willing to help him. He was almost on the verge of crying at this moment. If he no longer has his own people, then he will not have the source of the crystal of faith, and his strength will even regress to the level of a demigod, in which case he will no longer be a god. Don't worry, since they dare to invade the land of our gods, they must pay the price. However, before we get the exact information, we should wait and see for a while. During this time, we will also have to talk to several surrounding gods. Let's communicate with the system. At this time when stellar level foreign enemies are invading, the disputes between our gods should stop. On the high platform, the two gods who had reached the primary level of high-level stars calmly expressed their long-planned response to the gods below. Yes, let's negotiate with the surrounding gods first, so that we can make counterattacks in the future. Anyway, don't worry, they have not used their god-level strength to fight us anyway. It is a war between mortals. Let the mortals solve it. After all, in terms of mortal strength, are the strong men from our 30 major territories still inferior to the strong men from their mere 6 territories? The two stars summed it up very well. After saying these words, the gods below finally felt a little better. When the meeting was over, the flower goddess, who was sitting at the back, walked out of the meeting place of the gods. Goddess of flowers, wait. Just when she was about to leave, the two advanced stellar primary creatures behind her suddenly stopped her. Huh? You actually called me alone, why? Flora was stunned for a moment, and then her expression became alert. You must know that she allowed Jia Yan to quickly master how to deal with the existence of their gods in half a year. If this is known to people in her own divine system, then she, Flower God, didn't dare to think about it anymore. After all, she also knew that even if the gods seemed to be more united than the stellar powerhouses, in fact, the darkness underneath was not much weaker at all. What's the matter? You two adults. Peanut Relancy came before the two great gods. Now that she had temporarily lost the power of the gods, she was no match for the gods at all, let alone the existence of the primary combat power of the two high-level stars. Lorancy, half a year ago, did you really find a place to hide and heal? Asked the dragon living god, the two great masters. Why do you two say that? Of course I found a place to heal my wounds. Don't you still believe me? The flower god was even more wary and hurriedly explained to himself. Oh, we already have the exact information. We know that you didn't hide a way to heal your wounds at all, but walked with Jia Yan for half a year under the threat of him, right? What did you tell him during these 6 months? The information about our gods, and how ignorant he is of our gods, please tell us now. The dragon living god actually revealed what the flower god wanted to hide in just a moment. Luo Longxi's expression turned bitter for a moment. She knew that she had been exposed. Even if she wanted to escape, it was impossible for him to escape the two strongest men in the divine system even in his prime state, let alone her now. Well, you two adults know everything. I didn't mean it. I was just trying to survive, she laughed. Then tell me everything about Jia Yan. The two gods looked at each other, and their expressions of disbelief were confirmed. Originally, they had no intention of killing the flower goddess at this time. They were looking for her in private just to get information about Jia Yan. It's like this big, no, outsider named Jia Yan. He is extremely strong, really extremely strong. During the 6 months I have been traveling with him, I have thought about it more than once, how powerful he is. On this planet, he should be invincible. What? It's impossible. Invincible, could it be that he has reached the mid-level stellar level? The two gods were shocked. If Jia Yan reached the mid-level star level, they would not play anymore. Even if more than 30 gods joined forces to fight against a mid-level star-level expert, who would be stronger and who would be weaker? This is not necessarily true, but they know that if they really fight, a stellar mid-level will definitely be able to kill them all. Because it is impossible for people to fight head-on with more than 30 gods stupidly, right? There is always a time when the gods are divided, and that is the time for the mid-level powerhouses to defeat the gods one by one. Even if 5 or 6 gods are together, facing an intermediate star, let alone defeat, they may not be able to escape. Well, two adults, I don't think he is an intermediate powerhouse, but he must be a very strong junior powerhouse, flower god quickly explained. Oh, it's okay if it's not a mid-level powerhouse. There are very few mid-level powerhouses in our stellar battlefield. I thought I'd be so unlucky to meet one. After hearing what the flower god said, the dragon living god sat back down angrily. He was not a middle-level powerhouse, so he felt that there was no big problem. These two guys still underestimate Master Jia Yan, so what should I do? Tell everything, or? When Luo Longxi saw the leaders of the two major gods, she instantly didn't pay much attention to Jia Yan, who had not reached the mid-level star level, and her calculations were going on quickly. She always vaguely felt that even if he faced his own huge divine system, Master Jia Yan would not lose, so at this moment, she made a decision. That is, she still prefers Master Jia Yan. After all, she and Jia Yan have several transactions that cannot be revealed to the gods. Since she was leaning towards Jia Yan, it was impossible for her to tell all the information about Jia Yan. She didn't know if it was due to her talent, or if it was because of the powerful spirit beings. In short, the moment she made this decision, an almost seamless set of deceptive rhetoric was formed in her heart. Then she began to talk about her past with Jia Yan in the past 6 months, and also talked about the information about gods that she had given to Jia Yan. In the end, in order to make the two gods believe in her, she even invented Jia Yan's clone. Because she wanted to try the experiment of human reproduction, she gave her to. So she was very angry with Jia Yan, who would definitely not lie. Seeing the flower god's pitiful appearance, even the two gods faintly sympathized with him, so they didn't doubt too much, and even regarded the intruder as Jia Yan, as an evil bad guy with a human face and an animal heart. Okay, Luo Longxi, I feel sorry for what happened to you. Don't worry, this time our God department will definitely help you rub this Jia Yan again and let him understand the consequences of bullying the female of my God department. You can go down. The flower god gained the sympathy of the leaders of the two major gods. As soon as he returned to his territory, he felt as if he was extremely frightened and weak. You must know that no matter which link had problems just now, she would die without a burial place. Fortunately, the minds of the two leaders did not move so fast, but that would not be the case until they savored it carefully. Give me the order to start the flora quickly. The goddess of flowers hardly waited long, and quickly announced to the group of envoys outside. It turned out that what she called the flower goddess was the palace itself in her kingdom of God. Even the palace was fake, in fact it was just a flying warship. Oh my god, why do you need to activate the flora? Are we going to leave this planet? No, hurry up, use maximum power output instantly, our target is just the enemy camp 10,000 kilometers away, hurry up. Luo Longxi did not make such a decision on a whim. After all, gods are like stellar powerhouses. Their abilities cannot be underestimated, and their minds cannot be easily deceived. She just used sweet words to persuade the two of them. The leaders of the Great God Department were deceived, but when they came back to their senses, they would definitely notice that there were many doubts in it. Then what awaits the Flower God next will be endless hell. So until then, it's better to run away. Escape to Jia Yan whom she believes in. Please support the new book Wilderness Escape Female Anchor, you can find it by searching on Kidian. I'll give it to you for collecting and recommending it, thank you. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1367. What? Relancy activated the floor. Humph, I was thinking just now that there are many contradictions in what she said. She has actually been lying to us all along. Caught. Accompanied by the angry sounds of the two gods, a weapon similar to modern technology appeared in the huge Dogula god system. These weapons were extremely fast. When the Vulcan had just started and had not flown very high, they actually opened fire. Boom boom. With an earth-shaking loud noise, two beams of light similar to laser weapons hit the flying huge flower god. However, ripples rippled on the surface of the flower god, and then the two attacks were defended. After all, it is the vehicle of a powerful god-level person. Even if the attack is fierce, it cannot be easily killed. Quickly, these attacks are nothing, but we must not be slowed down by them, otherwise other gods will come and we will have no chance. The flower goddess Luo Longxi was almost in a cold sweat. You must know that her current behavior is not much different from betraying the gods. Anyone who sees the scene will definitely know that there is something wrong with her. Of course, except for the two strongest leaders, no one else knew what was going on. Even if they came to intercept, they would definitely not kill them immediately. This is her last chance. The flower god flew out like crazy, and countless weapons attacked, but they were unable to catch a piece of the flower god's clothes. There were even two gods who flew up when the flower goddess was flying over, wanting to ask what was going on. However, when they got closer, the flower goddess seemed to have an explanation, and when it slowed down, it suddenly accelerate. By the time the powerful gods reacted, the flower god had already used its super speed to fly 1 or 2,000 kilometers away. The time during this period was only more than 10 seconds. Although 10 seconds is already a long time for a strong person, it is not too much time after all. The news of the two leaders and gods did not have time to spread. The flower god had already its close to the border area. At the same time, on the defense line here, a group of stars are gathering together. There is urgent information, a divine warship is flying towards us. A demigod-level strongman suddenly transmitted the message with the power of his brain waves. After all, such important information was sent. If the message was transmitted slowly, it could cause huge changes in the war. God battleship. At this time, Jia Yan was working with a group of gods to study the god's disk he had obtained before. Over the past 6 months, his research in this area has made some progress, and he is preparing to put this together in the next few days. The problem of the kingdom of God was overcome. Unexpectedly, before the star-class people who worked together could express more opinions, they would hear such news. Hey, it's really a divine battleship, and this is... Jia Yan's brainwave power was released. Although the brainwave power on this planet was very limited, his strength was astonishing, and he still saw the god's warship flying 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers away in an instant. However, the appearance of this battleship surprised him. It turned out to be you who was attacked by the gods. Has it been exposed? Jia Yan instantly understood that the instant battleship was the flower god's palace that his clone had entered before, so the characters inside, needless to say the flower goddess Luo Longxi, were actually attacked by his own divine system. So the reason is obvious. She must have let something slip somewhere. Do you want to save me? Jia Yan saw that behind her, 3 gods had already flown out of their true form, and there were also a series of anti-air attacks, which made the flower god slow down. Well, it looks like she is going to defect to me. Having a god as her strength is not only a help, but also a show to other gods. She will not die if she surrenders. After Jia Yan made an instant judgment, he flew out directly. Stepping into subspace, the speed suddenly increased. On the other side, one of the chasing gods was the living dragon god, who held the position of leader of the Dogula pantheon. Goddess of flowers, you can't escape. You actually used your words to deceive us. It's a heinous crime. That's right, you don't even have a godly body. We kindly wanted to keep your godly place, but you actually dared to sell it out. You are simply a wolf-hearted woman. One of the 2 gods is one of the strongest ones in the Dogula system, and the other one speaking is the flying snake monster. They originally joined forces with the flower god to fight against Jia Yan, but unexpectedly they failed. They lied and said that the flower god was dead. Unexpectedly, Relancy came back and exposed their lies. The other gods here were very critical of the flying snake monster and the tiger-headed monster. Now that he finally saw it, it turned out that the flower god had betrayed their pantheon. How could he miss this opportunity? All the old and new grudges put together, he is one of the most popular people. You too, ahead is where my lord Jia Yan is. If you continue to pursue me, it will be in danger. The flower god's face changed wildly, and he uttered such words. Haha, your lord Jia Yan, even the title has become more inclined to him. It seems that you have had the intention of defecting for a long time, so just go to hell. That's right, let's see if that Mr. Jia Yan of yours dares to come and save you. The dragon living god didn't care about the flower god's words at all. After looking slightly ferocious, he struck out with one blow. We are still in the territory of their divine system, and he will not believe that the outsider named Jia Yan dares to cross the border. After all, this is a taboo matter. The flying snake monster behind him took the initiative to use all its strength. After all, if the flower god could not be stopped now, the flower god's inertial force alone would cause the flower god to escape into the area where Jia Yan and others were. They cannot break in for the same reason. Even if the 2 sides are enemies, these are some basic rules for the gods. Maybe this is where the gods are more rigid. It's a pity that they are willing to abide by such rules. Will Jia Yan be willing? Not to mention ordinary stars, they don't always abide by the rules. Jia Yan, a star, is an alternative among the strong stars. It would be easier to ask him to abide by the rules than to kill him. So. Puff. When the living dragon god struck out, it was about to hit the flower goddess, which had no power to resist the gods. A twisted space appeared between the flower god and the dragon living god. The next moment, the black front legs poked out from this space. He collided with the power of the living dragon god's attack fiercely. Boom! Between the sky and the earth, it was like a terrifying nuclear bomb appeared. The huge explosion force seemed to tear the surrounding earth and sky apart. The overwhelming momentum poured down from the sky, causing destruction to dozens of towns below the earth, and even some cities were completely reduced to dust. This is the result of the weak under the attack of stellar combat power. Every wave of their fighting energy can cause great damage. This kind of scene can only be said to be ordinary. Not to mention the raider, who didn't care about the current situation. Even the master of this land, the living dragon god, didn't show any emotion at this moment. With a solemn expression on his face, he just looked at the blocker who suddenly appeared. The force of the mutual attack between the two sides was too sudden. The fleeing flower goddess was attacked by the terrifying force and was blown dozens of kilometers away. It also hit the ground, rolled several times, and almost detonated. Fortunately, the God-class battleship was not that weak, so it was barely damaged. And the flying snake creature behind the dragon living god was even more unbearable by the shock wave, which shook it 3 or 4 kilometers away from the ground. Although it was impossible to be injured or anything, it was frightened by the impact. Trembling. The dragon living god who was fighting against the raiders took 5 or 6 steps back due to the fluctuations in the battle. He was not injured or anything. It seemed that his strength was really good. But what made him solemn was that the creature that emerged from the twisted subspace did not even retreat at all under this blow. It even seemed to drive away some flies, and its front legs still slowly moved forward. Extend within the space. Finally, when he was completely revealed, the appearance of this creature suddenly caused the expressions of the living dragon god and the flying snake monster behind to change drastically. Jia Yan. Both were solemn. You must know that this new star-level powerhouse has caused too many problems in their divine system territory. They have also thought about the strength of this outsider. Find out from Shiyuan the answer is not very optimistic. Looking at it now, it is true that even if the dragon living god fights against this creature once, it will obviously be at a disadvantage. Lord Jia Yan. In the Flora, hundreds of kilometers away, Flora, who had just recovered from the dizzy shockwave, almost cried with joy when she saw this scene. In her opinion, Jia Yan actually came to help her despite violating the rules, which made the female god feel a sense of sadness. Moreover, Jia Yan's strength was slightly beyond her expectation. After all, she had fought once more than half a year ago, so she thought Jia Yan's strength was just like that. Jia Yan, you actually risked the disapproval of the world and crossed the line to attack us. Aren't you afraid of being cast aside by the entire divine star? When the living dragon god saw Jia Yan slowly stepping out of the twisted space, his expression became ferocious, as if he wanted to attack, but was afraid. Oh, I am an outsider. Do I need to care about your rules? Jia Yan glanced at the creature lightly, then looked at the flower god behind him, who seemed to have no abnormality. He nodded slightly, then turned back to confront the living dragon god and the flying snake god. However, further away from these two giant creatures, there seems to be a larger wave of gods coming. That's all, I'll spare you two this time. Remember, this flower goddess is my subordinate from now on. If you dare to touch her hair, you will die without a burial place. After Jia Yan finished speaking, he ignored the beard-blowing flying snake monster and the extremely solemn dragon living god, and flew directly to the sky above the flower god. When the brainwave power moved, the Huashan, which was huge but temporarily unable to move, was actually lifted up by him with the brainwave power. Please support the new book Wilderness Escape Female Anchor. This book turns into a mosquito, the new book turns into a woman, haha. Please remember the first domain name of this book. VIP Chinese. Mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1368. This outsider is simply asshole, how brave. This. A large number of Gula divine creatures, as many as 7 or 8, arrived at Fengguo. But they still didn't attack impulsively. Jia Yan, under the watchful eyes of the Dogula gods who came over, boldly carried the rescued flower god and flew back to the other side of the border. This time, the Dogula god system did not dare to attack. Lord Jia Yan is mighty. Jia Yan at this end has just returned to the side of his stellar army. A group of stellar troops have already come forward to greet him, and they all expressed their admiration for Jia Yan's domineering performance just now. These guys are also people who have been around for a long time. They are too influenced by the gods and they will also abide by the rules and so on. Do you also agree that they won't cross the line if they say they don't cross the line? Don't be stupid. Next time, just like me, if you want to cross the line and cross the line, I will bear the consequences. Jia Yan glared at these creatures and gave them a timely education. Well, that's okay, but the rules are. When you work under my hands, I follow the rules. If you don't obey any messy rules, you will do it? Jia Yan's bastard-like education made a group of star-level creatures act like ignorant children who had received an unprecedented education and suddenly understood something. In the flower goddess Luo Longxi also walked out of the hatch. Lawrence has met your lord. When Luo Longxi saw the extremely huge Jia Yan, she quickly bowed down. Sir, what are you going to do with this flower god? Did you bring her here as a prisoner? Haha, this is a good idea. After all, the gods value such prisoners of war very much. Maybe it will facilitate the war. As expected of Master Jia Yan, this is a great idea. But why did this flower god fly towards us just now? I always feel a little strange. Jia Yan couldn't help but sigh when he saw that this group of star-level experts still didn't understand things. It seemed that after dealing with the gods for a long time, his mind became as rigid as the gods. He shook his head to stop them from continuing their random thoughts. Don't think too much. From now on, the flower goddess will be on our side. Don't talk about prisoners or anything else. What? Did Flora turn out to be a traitor just now? It's actually like this. I understand. No wonder she rushed so fast. My lord is worthy of being a lord. You can actually draw a god to our camp. This matter should be followed up by many operations, and it can even be used to disrupt the god's fighting spirit. The stellar subordinates were not that simple-minded. Some of them came up with many follow-up operation plans in an instant. Lawrence, don't think so much, come with me. Jia Yan shook his head helplessly, and then asked Luo Longxi to follow him. Luo Longxi was startled, not knowing what Jia Yan wanted to do. The two of them flew. Even though Luo Longxi temporarily lost the power of the gods, she still had the strength of around the saint level, so it was nothing to keep up with Jia Yan's slow flying speed. Soon after hundreds of kilometers passed, we arrived at a huge palace. This was the former territorial palace of a stellar powerhouse. Because it was close to the battlefield, it was expropriated by Jia Yan as his wartime palace. After all, he didn't want the Edessa to be harmed, otherwise there would be no way to leave the planet quickly. Come in. Jia Yan brought Luo Longxi here. Once inside the hall, the space was quite spacious. Jia Yan came to the first place and then turned around. Since you have come to me, you must have made up your mind to follow me. He asked calmly. Yes, sir, I am willing to follow you. Lawrence's serious head. In fact, before she suddenly rushed to Jia Yan's side, she just instinctively wanted to find a place to protect herself, but now she calmed down, she found that things were definitely not that simple. As the previous gods said, no matter whether she betrayed her own god system or not, her identity is still a god. She has survived and fought within the system of gods until now. If she turns to the system of the powerful in the universe, then the impact would be too great. It's not like there weren't such gods in history, and it's not like it didn't happen that stellar powerhouses turned to the god system. But when the stellar level turns to the divine system, few stellar level experts will interfere. After all, for the creatures in the universe, this is your own choice and has nothing to do with others. But it's different for divine beings. Such things, at least in the few cases she knew about in the past, caused great disturbance every time. However, she has no choice. If she continues to stay in the divine system, she will definitely be seeking death. Even if she changes her appearance and lives in another divine system, she will not be taken seriously because she has already lost the God level. Even some of the good things in your hands will be taken away. Besides, she couldn't escape the situation at that time. She subconsciously came to Jia Yan to ask for help, so she had no choice but to continue on this road until the end. Very good. Now that you have made your decision, tell me, how many crystals of faith resources do you need if you want to return to the God level? Your current strength should be far more than that of the saint level. Lawrence hesitated for a while, then nodded as if she had resigned herself to her fate. Then a burst of power surged through his body. Puff! Countless green branches and leaves appeared from behind her body. They did not grow directly on her body, but appeared out of thin air. The flower bone also appeared, a huge flower bone that set off her whole body. Her body has grown a bit bigger visibly to the naked eye, which is not too exaggerated. She has just grown from over 1.6 meters to over 1.7 meters. However, this appearance is already thousands of times smaller than the appearance of the flower god who fought with Jia Yan. His strength has also risen to around that of a demigod, but he is still far from the god level. Sir, this is my true strength now. I am a demigod, but I am far away from the god level and star level. I need at least 1,000 boxes of faith crystals to be enough for me to recover. The god of flowers told Jia Yan everything. 1,000 boxes. Jia Yan pondered for a while. In fact, if the flower god said more, he would definitely give up helping her, but if it was only 1,000 boxes, he could consider it. A god who has regained his strength and is on his side will have a huge influence. Let alone the gods of the Dogula pantheon, even if they fight other gods in the future, it will shock their hearts. Wonderful effect. Of course, Jia Yan has also learned about the possible sensation caused by the defection of gods before. It is nothing more than that most gods will attack the defectors and the recipients. Even this attack does not only take place within the divine star. If the gods from the outside know about their affairs, they will appear in the divine star and besiege them, because in the eyes of the gods, this is treason and violates the true intentions of the gods. Things. But does Jia Yan need to care so much? It's not necessary at all. He has many debts and has been arrested by the Stellar Academy. It doesn't matter if there is one more powerful person from the spiritual domain thinking about him. Besides, whether he is a strong person in the stellar academic field or a strong person in the spiritual realm, they all exist in this star field. When he finds a way to improve his strength in this stellar battlefield, or if he causes any big trouble, it will be really difficult. If he couldn't hold it any longer, he would pat his butt and run away. Could it be that the creatures from the Stellar Academy and these powerful gods would follow him to the genius battlefield? If they dare to follow, Jia Yan will tell them that they will never return. After all, in the stellar battlefield, the strongest person is the stellar mid-level. Jia Yan is confident that he will reach the true stellar mid-level in a short time. At that time, his strength can easily kill even the ordinary stellar mid-level. He may not be afraid of any mid-level star. So he is not afraid of anything. If you want 1,000 boxes, fine, I will first collect 1,000 boxes of the power of faith from 6 of my subordinates and give it to you. Please restore your strength quickly. I am still waiting for you to be the main direction of my propaganda war. Jia Yan said to Huashan calmly. Give me 1,000 boxes of faith crystals? This. The flower god was stunned. She thought that Jia Yan asked her about her strength because he wanted to see if she could be put to any use. Unexpectedly, he actually wanted to find a way to restore her strength. However, she is also a being with a mind like a demon. She immediately understood what Jia Yan was thinking. It seems that your lord is planning to force me to a dead end. Okay, go to Shiyuan. As long as your lord is willing to help me regain my strength, then I will bear the consequences with you. However, for those who are powerful in the spirit system, it's not just the divine star, Lord Jiashi, Please don't escape alone. Flora responded with a wry smile. Well, I won't, Jia Yan too. In fact, he was negative in his mind. I won't run? It would be strange if I didn't run. If, as the legend says, the strong men of the divine system change the direction of their power, and even lead to galaxy-level strong men, why don't I run? You'd be a fool not to run. Jia Yan's inner voice was not expressed. The flower god received Jia Yan's protection, as if he believed it, which made Jia Yan sigh. Are all the gods of the stellar battlefield so easy to deceive? He deserved to be beaten by a stellar-level powerhouse until he was unable to fight back. The process of asking the 6 subordinates for the Crystal of Faith still had some twists and turns. After all, they were originally promised the Crystal of Faith by Jia Yan and faced a certain threat to their lives before joining this team. Now they see that they haven't gotten it yet. If you want any benefit, you must first take out the Crystal of Faith in your hand. No one will be willing to exchange it for you. However, under Jia Yan's power, even if they didn't want to, they had no choice but to take out their own crystals of faith one by one. Each of the 6 powerful men came out with one, and it took a very short time to collect 1,000 boxes of faith crystals, and it seemed that they must have a lot of them in stock. Of course, Jia Yan would not ask for more. After all, it was impossible to ask them to be obedient and rob them of their things. I heard that the flower goddess said that every god in their pantheon has at least 10,000 crystals of faith in their hands, and maybe even more. As long as we take them down first, we will have a lot of crystals of faith in our hands. Even in the future, every pantheon of gods on this planet will provide us with crystals of faith. So don't think that this sacrifice is heartbreaking. Come on, everyone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1369. With the help of the Crystal of Faith, the flower goddess La Longxi's strength recovered quickly. In just 10 days, she had regained the divine crystal again. Sir, this is the divine crystal, but I can't show it to you, otherwise I will permanently lose levels or die. As soon as she condensed the so-called divine crystal, La Longxi came to Jia Yan and showed him her divine crystal. The divine crystal is something that every god possesses. Although a star-level powerhouse does not have anything similar, he can easily understand the role of the divine crystal. That is the so-called divine crystal, which condenses the essence of the power of the divine power. Without the divine crystal, the god would fall below the level of a demigod forever, and would never be promoted. The most severe case is immediate death without any possibility of recovery. Therefore, Jia Yan would not ask La Longxi to take out the divine crystal for him to observe. However, for the convenience of Jia Yan's observation, La Longxi still forced her divine crystal to the surface of her heart, allowing Jia Yan to take a closer look. Under that huge plump breast was a crystal that exuded brilliance. Even after La Longxi regained her god-level strength and once again reached a height of 100 meters, this divine crystal still covered her entire chest. Isn't this an enlarged and essence version of the Crystal of Faith? Jia Yan soon discovered the key point. That's right, sir. To put it bluntly, the divine crystal of our gods is just a concentrated version of the Crystal of Faith. Although many people say it is a divine crystal, in my opinion, it is actually based on the faith of countless ordinary creatures. Strength. La Longxi smiled bitterly. Since she had betrayed the divine system, she dared to say some words. Well, you're right. What you call gods are just blood-sucking monsters built on ordinary creatures, haha. After looking at it for a long time, Jia Yan sneered. He understood at a glance that the so-called divine crystal, the core energy substance of divine creatures, was simply the power that the gods stole bit by bit from the bodies of ordinary creatures and powerful creatures who believed in them. Such a creature actually has the nerve to say that he is a god. Sir, I have also thought about this problem, but I have come to the conclusion that we are beneficial and disadvantageous to ordinary creatures. For example, in order to obtain the crystal of faith, we are extremely concerned about ordinary creatures. Like this star of gods, if it were not for us with the existence of gods, will you star-level experts be able to preserve so many ordinary lives on the planet? I guess not. The flower god couldn't help but make a few excuses for the gods. But what she said was right. After Jia Yan thought about it, he realized that stellar powerhouses really didn't care about ordinary creatures. He had never even seen a few stellar powerhouses who were good to ordinary creatures. Just like him, would he treat ordinary creatures well when he met ordinary creatures with no friendship or benefits? No, Jia Yan might kill someone if he doesn't get his way. It's right to say that. You spiritual creatures may be more suitable for the reproduction and protection of life than our strong men in the universe. Jia Yan had no way to refute, so he could only nod. Of course, he would not say that stellar-level powerhouses are not good for ordinary creatures. At least in so many star fields in the non-God system, so many civilizations have developed. Even if the powerhouses kill, there is biological diversity being developed. Okay, then let me ask you one last question. Jia Yan's eyes flashed with a hint of horror. Lawrence seemed to have guessed what he wanted to ask, and nodded in response, "My lord, just ask." "Well, then let me ask you, if I kill a god, will his divine crystal be useful? Or, how does it compare with the effect of the crystal of faith?" Luo Longxi let out a long sigh, because she had already guessed that Jia Yan was going to ask this question. "Sir, I won't lie to you, but generally speaking, you star-level creatures cannot use the divine crystals on our gods. First of all, most gods will take the initiative to explode their own divine crystals before they die. The first point is that our divine crystal contains our own life mark. To use star-level powerhouses, it is like your own biological gene lock. Anyway, it is difficult for other creatures to digest it, unless it is forcibly digested and utilized. Of course, if it is just used as an energy load, it is still very useful, but it is a bit overkill. It is better to exchange things with spiritual creatures. After all, other powerful gods can use the divine crystal of another god." After Jia Yan heard this, a strange color appeared in his eyes. After asking Luo Longxi, who had just recovered her god-level strength, to retreat and continue to recover her full strength, Jia Yan was alone and silent in the palace that belonged to him. He was thinking whether there was an opportunity for him to take advantage of this divine crystal. Because snatching the crystal of faith is just a general direction for him. If there is another good source of demand, it will be an unexpected surprise. Forget it, we have to wait until we kill a god and get his divine crystal. Other star-level powerhouses cannot use the divine crystal, and neither can they do it for me. Jia Yan made this decision and then continued other matters. Now it is Jia Yan's army, and it has been more than 10 days since the war started with the gods. Except for the battle to rescue the flower god, the star experts and the god experts on both sides still restrained themselves and did not take action. Jia Yan is waiting for opportunities and is also understanding the various strengths of the gods, while the other side of the gods is waiting to reach an agreement with the surrounding gods and gods. There is actually no problem on Jia Yan's side. After all, he doesn't have much to prepare. Apart from asking for more information about the gods from Luo Longxi, he is just waiting for an opportunity to see for himself the strength of the powerful gods in battle. And background. After all, the opponent also has more than 30 gods. If Jia Yan faces them alone, it will really take some means to kill them one by one, and there is even a possibility of being injured. After all, although he thinks that his strength has reached the strongest level in this god star, others are also at the stellar level. It is true that Jia Yan has many powerful opponents, but in the face of the numerical advantage, Jia Yan does not have many solutions. Therefore, he also needs to make certain preparations, or look at the strength and fighting methods of the gods, and then use a thunder strike to see if one person can destroy the entire opponent's god system, or think of tactical methods to divide them into pieces. The other party probably had the same idea. They wanted to see the strength of his Jia Yan. After all, the few shots he had seen Jia Yan make were too terrifying. His shocking strength left them with almost no power. Attack the guts first. Both sides are now using ordinary biological lives to fill up on the battlefield. Lord Jia Yan, our army has advanced to the hinterland of Huangshigod. Next, we may attack the main city of Huangshigod. If he wants to take action, he will take action soon. Just when Jia Yan was still thinking about the strength of the gods, a notification came to Jia Yan's ears. This is the voice of a stellar subordinate of Jia Yan. Very good, then I'll go out and see if this yellow sand god dares to resist. Jia Yan sneered, knowing that today might be a big day, so he walked out of the palace unhurriedly. If the yellow sand god personally resists, then they will know the strength of the divine system. Of course, the main thing is that Jia Yan can see with his own eyes the strength of the ancient Dora divine system. His 6 subordinates will have no control over Dora. The ancient gods all have old contacts and have fought before, so they are not as vigilant as Jia Yan. Lord Jia Yan. A group of stars, plus a flower god, stood outside the palace and had been waiting for a long time. Well, let's go and see how the battle is going. Jia Yan nodded, then soared into the sky. For stellar-level creatures, the war on the ground is actually like playing house. They have fought for so long, and although they have captured a lot of territory, it is actually not enough for stellar-level creatures to fly for 10 seconds. 1,000 kilometers passed in just one flight. Sure enough, a large group of ant-like creatures were fighting on the ground. This is the battle scene between Jia Yan and the coalition forces of the stellar powerhouses sent by the 6 stellar classes, and the coalition forces of the Natara ancient god. There is at least a 20-kilometer battle line stretching underneath, and the number of creatures participating in the battle on both sides definitely exceeds 300,000. There were even demigod-level experts inside. As soon as the battle started, a large area of soldiers and the ground collapsed, causing endless killing. However, there are also strong demigods to face, and they are generally afraid of affecting their own soldiers, so they will come to the sky to fight, and there is not even much loss of life. After all, the strength of demigod-level creatures has reached to an extent that ordinary creatures cannot believe. As the strongest men closest to gods and star-level strong men, they will not fight so easily, nor will they fight so seriously when their opponents are desperate. Therefore, the demigod level is almost a soy sauce. On the contrary, in this battlefield, the main protagonist is the saint-level powerhouse. Saint-level creatures are the sub-level powerhouses in the outer universe. There are many of them on this god star, and their strength is also extraordinary. In addition, they have no scruples and will launch a direct attack on the opponent's army, so once every move was shocking, and every time he made a move, a lot of lives would be harvested. And unlike demigod-level creatures, almost every demigod level participating in the battle will have a corresponding demigod level to come forward to deal with it. The number of holy level creatures is not so balanced between the two sides, especially the star-level ones that have invaded the territory of the Yellow Sand God. The alliance of powerful men contained many saint-level creatures, which was why they almost pushed them to the main city palace of the Yellow Sand God. At this moment, figures in the sky slowly approached. My lord, look, the main city of the Yellow Sand God is more than 10 kilometers away. If the saint level takes action with all his strength, he can damage the main city. So let's see now, whether the Yellow Sand God dares to take action. He should know by now that we are watching from the side, and he must be very hesitant in his heart. Please support the new book Wild Escape Female Anchor, just collected, thank you. Please remember the first domain name of this book. VIP Chinese. Mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1370. Just as Jia Yan judged, in the main city of Huangsha God, a creature that looked like it was covered in sand was hesitating. There seems to be some faint fluctuations outside. It should be the stellar powerhouse from Jia Yanfang. So what should I do? He was extremely depressed. As the main front line in the war with the Seven Stars, his territory had withstood more than half of the army attacks. Not only the 300,000 troops attacking from outside, but also the total number of troops in his territory was no less than 200. Wan's coalition forces are fighting. And he asked for help from the gods behind him, but the reinforcements from the gods were blocked by a small group of stellar-level surprise attacks. If the gods don't take action, his territory will fall. He was extremely depressed. In fact, everyone knew that this was a deliberate trick by the other party to let the strong ones in the spiritual system take action, and then look at the backup and reaction of the spiritual system. But knowing it's useless, how to break the situation is the key. I lost the ordinary creatures in the territory, and the source of the power of faith is gone. Even if there is a chance to regain the territory in the future, ordinary creatures don't know how many deaths they will have. After all, star-level powerhouses will not care about the life and death of ordinary creatures. Then it will still be me who loses. This is what worries him now. Temporarily losing his territory, or even losing his palace, is not something worth paying too much attention to from the perspective of a powerful god. The most important thing is the ordinary people who believe in him. You must know that every god must try his best to protect his territory, and then gain the sincere faith of his people. Only in this way can he gain the power of their faith, otherwise the power of faith will definitely is impure. This involves the spiritual realm of living things. Jia Yandu has not been too involved in this aspect, but this kind of thing is the most important thing to the gods. Precisely because the people are difficult to cultivate, Huangsha God is really reluctant to give up. To fight, or not to fight? If I fight, maybe they will retreat because they are afraid of the support from the gods behind me at any time. Huangsha God has been hesitating. Jia Yan and others in the sky were silently observing what was going on below. This yellow sand god hasn't shown up yet. He is probably still struggling, a star-level creature sneered. This is the disadvantage of their gods. Once they take root, it will be difficult to move their territory. How can we be as free as stars? Several star-level warriors tried their best to destroy the powerful god-level warriors. The flower goddess La Longxi on the other side is more embarrassed. She has betrayed the divine system and wants to speak for the divine system. She feels unwilling to do so if she doesn't speak. In any case, she is still a spirit that has condensed the divine crystals. Strictly speaking, she is still in the category of gods, so she always feels uncomfortable if she does not speak for the spirit system. Fortunately, she didn't speak, but it was Jia Yan who rarely spoke up to help the god system. You are wrong to say that. There is a reason why the spirit system has been able to stand proudly in this universe for so long. They have many disadvantages, and their strength is slightly weaker than the strong system of our universe. But there is only one advantage, that is. It is very possible for a strong person in the spirit system to reach the level of galaxy level. Although most of the gods with galaxy level strength are still at the bottom of the list, with more people, they are still a huge force. This is their true strength. The real reason why it has been able to stand in the universe for so long. Jia Yan's words made all the star-level creatures fall silent for a while and stop talking. Because what Jia Yan said is right, no matter how unbearable the creatures of the divine system are, it is undeniable that even if their strength is a little bit lower than that of the same star level, the difference is not much. After the initial burst of strength, at the right time, if used properly, it might even be possible to kill a star-level powerhouse of the same level. So even if it is weak, it is not that weak. Then, the probability of a star-level powerhouse coming out of the divine system, or even being promoted to the mid-stellar stage, which is the mid-level God's strength, is much greater than the chance of a star-level powerhouse being promoted. In this case, if the number of strong men in the universe exceeds that of the God system, and the real top powerhouses are far stronger than the gods, they are suppressed in the realm of the gods. Otherwise, there are no strong men at the cosmic level. What to be proud of? Well, that's true. I heard that the last time, it seemed more than 50 years ago, a strong man from the God system advanced to the middle level of God on this God star and killed the strong man from our universe system. A little less than half of it, and finally returned to the divine realm calmly, but none of the strong men in our universe have successfully advanced on this divine planet. A star-level creature restrained his contempt for divine creatures and spoke with a long sigh. Huh? How could a divine creature be promoted here so recently? The speaker was unintentional, but the listener was intentional. After Jia Yan suddenly heard the words of this star-level creature, his expression froze slightly. If a god is promoted so recently, doesn't it mean that there is still a certain possibility that a god will be promoted in this god star? Especially when a general war occurs, any kind of strong person can improve his strength. If Jia Yan is not careful, a person who has reached the middle level of a god suddenly appears on this giant planet where there is no intermediate star strength. It would be so depressing if the gods were fighting against themselves. Lord Jia Yan, don't worry, that god is actually a god with good talent. On our god planet, at least now, there is no god with that kind of talent. I can guarantee this, but there are a few those who have reached the peak of the primary level. I don't know if they will have any breakthroughs in the war. The flower god's words made Jia Yan feel slightly relieved. It turned out that the god's breakthrough was not that simple. But since this possibility exists, he must try his best to take this into consideration in future wars. After all, he is not too worried about the combat power of the early stage of stellar level now, but if a mid-level star suddenly comes, it will be troublesome. Especially in the God system, there are many helpers, and several junior levels are teamed up with mid-level ones. Even he can only run away. Of course, all we need to do now is to be on guard. After all, whether a god with mid-level stellar strength will emerge is a matter of two minds. Hey, sir, the yellow sand is moving. He really wants to resist. When Jia Yan was still thinking about fear, his subordinates reported to him. Jia Yan slightly released his brainwave power and took a look. Sure enough, below the earth, the 300,000 star-level coalition forces had defeated the Yellow Sand God's army they faced, and then roared towards the Yellow Sand God's army. Attack the main city. Even the people in this group of troops know what is in that palace, but the creatures in the star-level system are much less afraid of the powerful gods. Even if they call the ruler in their own territory their stellar powerhouses are also called gods. However, in their education system, it is often mentioned that all gods are fake. Even the strongest man in their territory is just a cosmic figure. They are just powerful creatures in the world. Calling them gods is just a title. Therefore, this group of troops does not have that great fear of the gods. Moreover, their leader also said that the Yellow Sand God may not dare to take action. Even if he does, there are real adults behind the army, those star-level beings who will take action. With so many guarantees, what would the military be afraid of? Boom. However, the military creatures must have misunderstood the stellar powerhouse's love for the military. When the first star-level front army creature laughed wildly and stepped into the main gate of the Yellow Sand God's main city that had been attacked. The huge divine power, that is, a brainwave power that has reached the strength of a star-level powerhouse, exploded, instantly killing ordinary biological soldiers who dared to step into the main city into powder. Let's do it. Go down and meet him. Jia Yan saw the scene from a distance and knew that the yellow sand god had taken action. Then he asked the beetle monster who was the first to subdue him to go down and deal with the angry god. Yes, Sir Tian Nialang nodded to Jia Yan and flew to the land of Huangsha City without any fear. As a star-level powerhouse, it is understandable to be afraid of Jia Yan, but if the beetle monster is afraid of a god with only 3 minutes of fighting power, how can he be afraid? God Huangsha. As a stellar-level combat power, you actually attack an ordinary army. You did it first, so don't blame me for killing you. The voice of the heavenly cowherd spread throughout the world, and then he emerged from the invisible sky and rushed towards the main city where the yellow sand god was located. Tianyu Lang, I didn't expect you to be so willing to be Jia Yan's lackey now. Aren't you famous for your tough bones? Now you are so skilled at licking your master's toes. The figure of the yellow sand god also appeared in the sky above the main city. When the burst of strength just broke out, he knew that there would definitely be a star-level strongman coming out to fight him. He had no intention of avoiding it, but faced him head-on. In his opinion, the gods from behind will definitely come forward, so he is not afraid, but is prepared to let the opponent retreat after a battle. He needs his territory too much. Without it, his strength will soon decline. Puff. The two powerful men quarreled and bickered, but when they fought, they showed no intention of dragging their feet. The brainwave power of the two sides bombarded each other, instantly detonating the entire sky. If the yellow sand god had not deliberately guarded the main city below, his magnificent main city and palace might have disappeared. The body of this yellow sand god is a fox-like creature that reaches about 1 kilometer in length. There is faint yellow sand flying on the entire surface of the body. His name must be related to this appearance. The attack mode of this yellow sand god is quite interesting. Jia Yan was high in the air, looking at the two fighting parties below with a faint expression of interest. A battle at a stellar level is, after all, a battle at a stellar level. Even if Jia Yan is confident that he can defeat the two creatures in the battle, it is normal to learn something from their battle. Please remember the first domain name of this book. VIP Chinese. Mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1371. The two stars' primary combat creatures have very different styles. The beetle monster mainly attacks with the physical attack style. His huge beetle horns will occasionally hit the body of the yellow sand monster, causing him to roar in shock. The yellow sand monster, on the other hand, is faintly hidden behind the yellow sand, and the yellow sand is flying all over the sky when it makes a move. The longhorn monster was affected by the opponent's attack, and its body was actually covered by yellow sand. It was submerged in endless yellow sand. If it were an ordinary creature, it might die. However, the longhorn monster is a star-level powerhouse. As I said earlier, even if a star-level creature has shortcomings, these shortcomings will not be too big. Especially since the longhorn monster has been on this divine planet for a long time, he has long been familiar with the attack methods of divine creatures. When the yellow sand filled the sky, he directly used his brainwave power to resist. Finally, another terrifying force exploded and spread from the center of the battle. This is the true power of a stellar powerhouse, the domain. If you use it outside the realm so quickly, will the cowherd lose? Jia Yan was surprised. The primary star-level creatures actually consume a lot of space when using the field. Although it is a great weapon for them to save their lives and kill enemies, if the consumption is too high, they will soon lose most of their combat effectiveness. Although this is not a big problem for Jia Yan. His physical strength and energy have never been lacking, but other stars are not like this. Sir, you don't know something about this. In fact, when he uses the field now, not only is he not going to lose, but he is about to win on Jia Yan's side. A creature that looked like a giant horse spoke to Jia Yan. Road. What do you mean? Jia Yan asked shamelessly. Haha, the reason is actually very simple. Compared with our star-level creatures, the spiritual creatures have a 3-minute combat power. When they fight, their combat power is almost as long as a period of time. Although I heard that higher-level spiritual creatures will not be like this. Trouble, but at least the divine creatures on our divine planet are like this, so when we broke out in the field before, they had no choice but to use the kingdom of God or the corresponding strength to deal with us, but after a few minutes, their defeat was determined. I see. When Jia Yan changed his mind, he finally understood. In fact, what this giant horse creature said is not complete, that is, if the spiritual creature has a stronger combat power in the early stage and the bull monster bursts out of the field that day, then at least it is guaranteed that when the divine creature has explosive power, he will not fail. Watch out for injuries or even being killed by the opponent. In this case, if you use the domain to delay for a period of time, the gods with shorter endurance than him will be defeated. It seems that between stars and gods, the ultimate competition is endurance. A man with such a strong endurance like me will definitely dominate the war. Jia Yan smiled strangely and felt proud in his heart. In terms of endurance, who could compare with this evolved beast? The battle below slowly expanded. Look, sir, the yellow sand monster is starting to get anxious. He has used his divine kingdom. He probably lacks endurance. The giant horse creature finally found a scene where the beetle monster was not around and could talk to Jia Yan face to face. He quickly explained the battle to Jia Yan. Sure enough, just as he said, the yellow sand monster knew that it was unable to defeat the long-horned monster, and would lose if it delayed any longer, so it quickly used the most powerful method of the spiritual creature, which was also able to compete with the star creature. Means of confrontation in the field. The kingdom of God. Jia Yan quickly condensed his expression and observed carefully. You must know that Jia Yan still has only a little understanding of the kingdom of God, even with the explanation of the flower goddess La Longxi, or even directly using the kingdom of God on him. When fighting gods, such a half-knowledge is not good, so we must carefully observe and see what kind of fighting method the kingdom of God has under combat conditions. Puff. In the 2-star level battlefields below the sky, a bright yellow object suddenly lit up. The activation of the divine kingdom was just like when Jia Yan fought against several major gods, even faster than the domain. In that kingdom of gods, the rules were completely distorted, as if everything was controlled by the kingdom of gods and gods. The beetle monster on the other side showed no signs of weakness and expanded its territory. Compared with the control of everything in the kingdom of God, the feeling of the realm is that it only strengthens certain aspects, and even far exceeds the control of the kingdom of God in this aspect. Therefore, when the realm is activated, the rules of these aspects controlled by the kingdom of God are completely controlled by the realm. Devour. But the kingdom of God is so powerful that it can master any kind of rules, and the feeling of beauty is a headache. The kingdom of God on one side and the realm on the other side seemed to have no conflict during the battle. They actually blended together like that. However, as they spread out from each other, the battle scene inside became twisted and unsightly. Get real. The realm and the kingdom of God are essentially a strong person's mastery of the rules of the universe. They are first born out of the strong person's brainwave power. This is the same regardless of the strong person in the universe or the strong person in the spiritual system. But at the star level, the powerful people of the spiritual system have embarked on the path of using foreign objects, or in other words, relying on the crystals of faith of other creatures. Therefore, their understanding of the rules of the universe will be much weaker than that of stellar powerhouses. In this case, their divine kingdom was created, which was a way to fight against stellar powerhouses. Under such circumstances, the two sides had been arguing about who was stronger and who was weaker, and there was no result. Because you are stronger in both aspects. I will catch up at this point. If you are strong at that point, I will break through at that point. As a result, today, no one can say that the realm will definitely beat the kingdom of God. Of course, to some extent, the powerful gods who borrowed foreign objects, after all, the power itself does not come from themselves, so there are still disadvantages. It is just a matter of how long they can fight. Puff. Puff puff. The two major forces below are constantly colliding. The long-horned monster's domain power is the power, which is constantly bombarding the kingdom of the yellow sand monster to the point of collapse. I see, this is how the kingdom of God will deal with it. It is clear to onlookers that Jia Yan was a little confused about the situation when he fought against the three great gods last time. Now that he has seen other people's battles, he has quickly mastered a lot of experience and information about fighting against powerful gods, especially against their kingdom of gods. Now facing the gods, he was much less afraid. While Jia Yan and several star-level and external flower gods were watching the battle below, on one side of the sky, another team of more than 10 gods also came quickly. Those outsiders are actually fighting against the yellow sand god. This is the first god-level battle that has occurred. Do we want to intervene? How could you not intervene? Go ahead and beat them to a pulp. Otherwise, we won't even be able to save our own comrades from the gods. We'll just tell you where to put our face. No, we can't be impulsive. We don't know how strong Jia Yan is yet. There are even rumors that he may be the first level of strength in our planet. If he has that strength, we will have more people than them. There are just a few of them, and it's hard to say that they are taking advantage. Presumably, they don't dare to kill the yellow sand god, so they can just stop it later. The personnel of the divine system are like this. Even if they form a group, their strength usually explodes in a geometric manner. But compared to the stellar powerhouses who don't like to form groups, they have such a huge advantage, but they still can't defeat the constant. The reason for star powerhouses is that they are always unable to fully unleash their combat power due to arguments, concerns, and other reasons. Just like what the goddess of flowers said, the creatures of the divine system are, to put it bluntly, combined with various interests, and they also have to respect the ancient traditions of the gods. Under such circumstances, the divine system will only become efficient. It's just a lowly quarrelsome organization. You all should stop arguing. We want to help Huangsha, but as we just suggested, we don't know much about Jia Yan's strength yet. When Huangsha retreats later, we will help him. Stop the enemy, go to Shiyuan, and don't directly start a large-scale war. In this team, one of the two leaders of the Dogula Pantheon, a huge green creature with the same status as the living dragon god, gave the order calmly. The absolutely powerful god in the god system is usually the leader, and his words still have a certain prestige. Of course, because his strength is strong but limited, secret gaps and fights still occur. This is the god system of sorrow. Boom boom boom. At the place where the yellow sand god and the longhorn monster fought, the war between the two sides had reached a pitch of dire straits. This is really dire straits. On the ground, countless magmas splashed up. He wanted to take care of the Huangsha city just now, but now they were fighting, and the two sides used real fire, which even affected the main city. Immediately, there were countless casualties, and countless miserable and screaming creatures in the city were running towards the outside world to escape. It's a pity that the battle fluctuations are constantly pouring down, and any fleeing creature hit by the fierce wind will be killed immediately. Even this terrifying battle fluctuation made the armies of the two sides fighting below unable to continue the war and stopped. Fortunately, there were countless strong men in this army, and there were even demigod-level creatures to protect them, so they each went to escape from the center of the battle in the opposite direction without much loss. And just when the battle went on for a period of time, when the ground was cracked and the magma on the ground was like a volcano, the momentum of the yellow sand god suddenly dropped. Is this what the powerful gods call weak strength? High in the sky, Jia Yan couldn't help but be stunned when he saw this scene. To support Buletinyu's new book, just search Wild Escape Female Anchor on Kidian. Even though it looks like she's transformed, the content is actually exciting. 8. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Buletinyu. Chapter 1372. The strength of the yellow sand god did not fall slowly as Jia Yan thought, but suddenly fell at a certain key point, like a roller coaster ride. Woos. This made Jia Yan a little surprised. He had never heard of such a way of losing strength. But looking at the surrounding star-level experts and the flower god, they all seemed not surprised. Are all spiritual creatures like this? This is a little weird. Fortunately, the flower god beside him seemed to have been with Jia Yan's clone for a long time and knew what Jia Yan would be confused about, so he took the initiative to talk about it without waiting for Jia Yan to ask. Sir, although there are quite a few of our spiritual powerhouses, like Huangsha God, who actually maintain a level and then suddenly drop, they are not very many. The general powerhouses of the gods still slowly lose their strength. Actually, this involves the cultivation of the gods' divine crystals. Huangsha God should have cultivated his own divine crystals to maintain a stable output state of power. In this way, as long as he is willing to fight, he can fight without weakening to a certain point. Until this level, it has been maintained at that intensity. This is also a solution that many powerful gods have come up with to solve the problem of low endurance of their power. The flower god's explanation helped Jia Yan to clear up his doubts a little. So this is the unique way of cultivation of some gods. The creatures of the divine system are really different from the creatures of the star system? I just don't know. They say that the creatures of the divine system only have the problem of short-lasting strength when they are at the initial level of strength. What will happen if they become stronger? In Jia Yan's view, such a huge disadvantage cannot be solved by simply increasing strength. But since the flower god has said it, there should be a way. Jia Yan didn't care how these god-level creatures could increase their reality. When he saw the yellow sand god trying to escape to the side, he hesitated and said to the two star-level creatures on one side. You two, catch up and cooperate with the cowherd. If you can kill him, kill him. Bring the divine crystal back to me. Well. Sir, this. After hearing Jia Yan's order, the two stellar powerhouses seemed to have heard something extraordinary and stared at Jia Yan in shock. You must know that they had no intention of actually killing the yellow sand god in this battle, because they all felt that in the direction in which the yellow sand god fled, the gods of his Dogula god system had already its waiting there. If the beetle monster fighting the yellow sand god rushes forward to chase and kill it, it is still reasonable. Moreover, even the beetle monster can seriously injure the yellow sand god at most. What to do next? The gods over there, the creatures are about to take action, or I should say, they all want to take action now. But Jia Yan's order actually asked them to directly catch up and kill the yellow sand god. This touched the N-Island over there. You must know that their previous battles were still limited to the level of ordinary creatures. This battle with the yellow sand god was just a trial according to their positioning. But they did not dare to disobey Jia Yan's order. Poof. God of yellow sand, please give me your life. The two stellar powerhouses, who had never experienced combat, rushed out with extremely terrifying strength, and instantly came to the side of the fleeing yellow sand god and the longhorn monster entangled with him. What? At this moment, not only the yellow sand god, but also the longhorn monster were shocked for a moment. You must know that they all thought that this battle so far was a small victory for the stellar powerhouses. There were large armies behind both sides. No matter who wanted to take the life of the other, the powerful companions behind them would take action. But neither of them expected that the commander-in-chief of the stellar side, the strong man named Jia Yan, was actually a person who played his cards according to the cards. At this moment, he issued the killing yellow sand. God's command. No matter why Mr. Jia Yan said this, anyway, according to your words, we should have fought with this God system, and it is nothing to fight now. It depends on how you deal with the aftermath. At this moment, the ferocious look in the beetle monster's eyes also emerged. The two major rushing creatures also arrived, and the three powerful star-level men immediately attacked the yellow sand god with all their strength. Such a move suddenly triggered an earthquake-like reaction on the side of the Darega god system. What? This stellar powerhouse actually dares to send people to chase him under such circumstances. Do they really want to trigger a war immediately? It's too much. You actually want to kill my divine creatures right under our noses. Stop it. Hurry over and provide support. Faced with such a situation, even the strongest leader of the Darega god line had no choice but to issue an order to rescue with all his strength at this moment. After all, the Pantheon relies on everyone's mutual help to survive. If he doesn't give orders under such circumstances, then their Pantheon will be broken up. A total of 12 Darega divine creatures rushed toward the battle place like the wind to rush for rescue. However, they were already a step late. The 3-star level experts over there besieged a yellow sand monster that had lost a lot of strength. They would definitely be able to kill it very quickly. At this moment, the yellow sand monster also knew that he was at the most important moment, and viciously mentioned his strength again. It actually overloads the power of the divine crystal, so you won't be afraid that you will fall to the divine level later. After being blocked by the yellow sand monster's fatal attack, the longhorn monster shouted coldly. Haha, it doesn't matter if the level drops. It's better than being killed by you right here. The yellow sand monster looked extremely crazy, and the 2-star level attacks coming from the other side were actually blocked by the same person. Although one blow caused the yellow sand on his body to crack, revealing his body underneath, and the other blow caused his eyes to fly out, causing him serious injuries, he was still able to block it. Come on, reinforcements from our divine system are coming soon. If you don't run away, neither of you will be able to escape. The yellow sand monster sensed a group of divine creatures in the rear, very close at hand, and roared at the 3 stars with an extremely crazy expression. Really? Look again, what are your fellow gods doing now? The beetle monster smiled coldly and struck out at the same time. The yellow sand monster's demeanor changed, and after looking back with its brainwave power, the remaining eyeball suddenly widened. What? Before he could finish his words, he was finally hit on the head by a blow from the longhorn monster. With a bang, the yellow sand monster was killed. What caused such a huge shock to the yellow sand monster was, of course, that the divine reinforcements he had placed high hopes on were actually so close to him, and were so calmly blocked by a black creature. It turned out that the person in front of them was Jia Yan, the leading being of stellar powerhouses who stepped out of subspace in one step. At this time, the giant mosquito was like a majestic mountain. Even though it was not actually bigger than any powerful person in the spiritual system, it still gave people incredible pressure, just lying in front of a group of spiritual creatures. Get out of my way. Ah, he is already dead. You actually dare to stand in my way and kill the yellow sand god of our pantheon. This is really too much of a lie. Kill him. A group of gods and creatures did not negotiate much with Jia Yan. After all, their friends had all been killed. This was the first god to be killed in this battle. Of course, they were shocked. And even feels like a rabbit is dead and a fox is sad. So they didn't think too much about other things and launched the attack directly. Oh, join forces to attack me. Jia Yan shook his head and took a step back. The dozen or so attacks seemed to fall into the air, and then hit the ground one by one, bombarding the entire land until the sky and the earth were turned upside down and darkened. Jia Yan was not an idiot for being attacked by more than a dozen strong men of the spiritual system. Even if he claimed to be powerful, he could not resist, so the right way was to avoid the attack temporarily. What's more, his original fighting method has always been mainly subspace mobile fighting. As soon as he retreated, his figure seemed to teleport and came to the back of a spiritual creature. Since you are going to leave a few more divine crystals for me, then I will smile. Jia Yan's faint voice rings in the ears of every spiritual creature. Under their horrified gaze, the guy who was not sure whether he was careless but was a little far away from the other gods, just at the moment Jia Yan appeared, a front foot came from his side and kicked directly. Pierce out. The opponent didn't even have time to use the domain before he came out, and was just pierced through the body with a kick. No. He had just shouted something, but a brainwave power exploded from the front foot that penetrated his body. Bang! This divine creature was unable to resist even a single move and died in Jia Yan's hands. But he didn't even have time to explode his own divine crystal. The pale golden boulder was so quietly controlled by Jia Yan with the power of brainwaves in front of his eyes. This was the first time that Jia Yan killed a divine creature, so it was also the first time that he saw the true face of the divine crystal. The divine crystal in front of him was a golden multifaceted boulder reaching 50 meters in size, and the whole body was constantly emitting golden light. So this is the divine crystal, and the power inside it. Hey, it's really good. Jia Yan felt it for a moment, and his eyes lit up. But before he could look at it more carefully, the group of divine beings in front of him seemed to have gone crazy. A fellow divine being was killed in front of them, and even the divine crystal was directly seized by the enemy. This was a big blow to them. In other words, it's an outrageous thing. Damn it, you actually destroyed the god of Duo Rao, kill him. Let's do it together. This guy's strength cannot be underestimated. If we don't kill him, we might as well. This guy's strength is too terrifying. One after another attacks came again. However, in front of them, Jia Yan, who was originally looking at the divine crystal, faintly entered the subspace. When their attack landed on Jia Yan's body, it was already a piece of air. So strong? How can we fight this? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1373. Jia Yan fought against and defended against a wave of gods from the Dogula system, and after killing one of the gods, he returned to his subordinates happily. Seeing Jia Yan drilling out of the air on his side, even though everyone knew that Jia Yan was using subspace talent, several stellar powerhouses were still horrified. There is no other reason. The terrifying subspace talent and super strength that Jia Yan showed just now far exceed the elementary level of ordinary stars. The beetle monster who also killed the yellow sand god hadn't returned here yet, but he saw Jia Yan emerging from the subspace, with a huge divine crystal floating in front of him. I still want to claim credit from you, sir, but he killed a god and obtained the divine crystal in a flash. The credit will be reduced a lot depending on the situation. The beetle monster sighed helplessly. It was extremely stressful to follow a master who was too powerful. However, Jia Yan's strength also made him extremely excited. Because even their 6-star level experts knew that Jia Yan was extremely powerful before, but Jia Yan himself said that he had never dealt with divine beings, otherwise there would be no current temptation. He was vaguely worried that Jia Yan might not be able to show his original strength in the battle against the divine creatures, so their team would be greatly restricted. Even at the critical moment, Jia Yan escaped alone, and they 6-star levels would make me want to cry. Fortunately, it seems that Jia Yan's strength is still strong. Even though he seems to be a little timid when dealing with powerful gods, as long as he shows a little bit of strength, won't a god-level creature be killed by him in an instant? Sir, here is the divine crystal you want. The beetle monster flew to Jia Yan and offered the divine crystal. Well, very good. You worked hard in this battle, and so did you too. Jia Yan looked at the long-horned monster. Most of the credit for this divine crystal was attributed to the long-horned monster, and the other part of the credit was from the 2-star level ones he ordered to support later. He will keep these in mind. After all, leading a team is not just about being strong and being able to force them to do things well. I'm serving you, so I don't dare to take credit. After hearing this, the Longhorn monster and the 2-star class people on the side knew that Jia Yan did not downplay their contribution just because he had also obtained a divine crystal, so they immediately expressed their respect. Apologized to Jia Yan. Of course Jia Yan knew that this was just modesty. However, he did not dwell on this issue anymore, because not far away, the god-level powerhouses of the Dogula god system were looking at them with cold expressions. The previous scene of Jia Yan rushing into more than a dozen gods of their pantheon and killing one of them shocked their hearts. Even if Jia Yan instantly returned to the subordinates of Xing Ju, they would not dare to go crazy. To avenge his colleagues. Jia Yan, you are such a strong man, why did you start a battle with our god-level strong men without informing us? Do you think that breaking the rules will be recognized by other strong men? The strongest of the dozen or so divine beings, who was on the same level as the living dragon god, stepped out to the front of all the divine beings and gritted his teeth at Jia Yan. Even though he was extremely afraid of Jia Yan, but now that there were more than a dozen of his friends behind him, he didn't think that Jia Yan would be able to rush forward for a sneak attack again. Jia Yan obviously had no intention of attacking again. Haha, does a battle require notification before it can be fought? Haha, I'm sorry, in my hometown, you can start a war whenever you want. What's more, do you think your strength is worthy of me reporting first? Or, I won't, I've reported it, what can you do to me? Jia Yan sneered and spoke coldly to this group of pedantic spiritual beings. The stellar subordinates around him were stunned for a moment, and then their eyes showed recognition. After all, most of the star-level creatures grew up under similar conditions and environments. After arriving on this god star, or somewhere close to the god realm, they had their current view on combat after being influenced by them. But after Jia Yan mentions it, they will soon remember the feeling back then. However, this is a bit difficult to understand for the Dogula divine system and the flower god next to Jia Yan. Fight without notification? Jia Yan, do you think you are an ordinary creature? Even if there is a war between ordinary creatures, there will be notification and mediation in advance. You are simply not worthy of being a strong person. Today you will destroy the two major gods of my god system. You will definitely have to pay the price in the future, let's go. After seeing Jia Yan's unreasonable remarks, the leading spirit looked ashamed and angry, and the surrounding spirits felt even more furious, because in the eyes of their spirits, this was too rebellious. But there was nothing they could do, because the strength Jia Yan had just shown was too terrifying. Back off, go back and discuss with the surrounding gods. This stellar team has great ambitions, and there is a strong man who has reached such strength. We should unite them. The leading creature of the gods, using the appearance of a creature that looked nothing like him, quickly led a group of gods to retreat, because he knew that if Jia Yan really wanted to take action, plus a group of star-level powerful people around him, otherwise, maybe the dozens of gods and gods on their side will suffer a big loss. This Jia Yan definitely has some reason for not taking action against us, but it doesn't matter. It would be better not to take action. Go back quickly and pass on his news. The gods who covet us and other gods will also turn to us. On our side, after all, our gods stand together in front of the stellar powerhouses. No matter what happens, we can also ask them to stop the border confrontation with us, so that our entire pantheon can use it to deal with Jia Yan and his gang, and the advantage will definitely return to our side. That's right, unlike their stellar powerhouses, our gods are the most united. Several divine creatures on the side all agreed with the leader's words. On the other side, Jia Yan and a group of stellar subordinates looked at the retreating group of divine creatures. Sir, don't we chase them? You must know that their mentality has collapsed now. As long as they chase them, they may have greater results. Beside Jia Yan, Tian Nialang made some hesitant suggestions to Jia Yan. No, don't forget, our side has never been just a divine system like theirs. This is just the first step of testing. I am very satisfied with the current results. Take your time and communicate with the gods. The war between the strong has only begun now. Jia Yan smiled and didn't feel that he took the current war too seriously. Other stellar powerhouses will think this is a good opportunity, but this is just because of their short-sightedness. Jia Yan is different. He is really planning to do great things on this planet. The battle at this time does not require such extreme operations. What's more, this is indeed Jia Yan's first time to deal with a group attack from gods, and he also has a vague understanding in his heart. As long as he goes back and thinks about it carefully, he will definitely make greater progress in dealing with gods. So why rush for this little time? If you walk here with a few broken attributes, then your heart will be unstable. And this divine crystal. Jia Yan looked at the two divine crystals in front of him. The group of star-level people around him almost ignored these things. As mentioned before, the divine crystals have no effect on star-level creatures. The appeal of the crystal of faith is huge. Of course, the value of this divine crystal must be much more than that of the crystal of faith, but they don't dare to compete with Jia Yan, right? Moreover, they had already negotiated the distribution of the crystal of faith, so it would be better for Jia Yan, the most powerful leader, to take advantage of this unexpected surprise. Jia Yan smiled at these two divine crystals, and after getting them, a strange light appeared in his compound eyes. It seemed that this was joy. But now is not the time to think about it so much. Okay, the yellow sand god is dead. You can go and solve the war below. Those armies will not be killed if they can. Don't forget the number of armies of our ordinary creatures, but they are far away. Those who are far less than the enemy can use them to recharge their numbers. Yes. A star-level powerhouse flew under the earth. The war below had stopped a long time ago because of the war between gods. Especially after seeing a group of gods from the gods, they were all fleeing madly under the attack of the gods from the side of the stellar powerhouse. The army from the yellow sand god side was like their fighting spirit instantly collapsed, and everyone ran for their lives on the ground. However, when the star-level creature fell below, the brainwave power was activated, and a large area of the creature was unable to move. As for how this stellar powerhouse would persuade the enemy, Jia Yan didn't care. He flew towards his headquarters with a group of stellar subordinates and the flower god who had been watching the battle for a long time. It was only a few thousand kilometers away, and with the strength of a star-level expert, he returned in just a few seconds. Okay, please step back. Jia Yan entered the main hall he occupied, but he did not stay in the hall. Instead, he stepped into the subspace. In this space, a huge warship docked here. Master, you are back. Wow, you brought two huge energy sources. Are they used as energy sources for the Edissa? As soon as they flew into the Edissa, little Edissa flew forward. After seeing the two huge divine crystals held by Jia Yan, the eyes of the light-brained mosquitoes lit up. Hey, you can use this thing too, Jia Yan was stunned. Yes, I can feel it. If the Edissa uses it as energy source, it will fly faster, Edissa replied to Jia Yan. Well, let me give you one first. I want to study the remaining one. Don't worry, there will be many such things in the future. Jia Yan threw a divine crystal to Edissa. 8.